Think about this. You're living in Caracas in the early 20th century, just minding your own business, and one day, while reading the newspaper, you come across a prominent obituary. A doctor and a religious tertiary had just died. You weren't particularly close or anything to him, but you do remember a time that he helped your father when he was sick and other doctors couldn't offer any help. It was as though he had a gift for healing. He could help when nobody else could. As the days go on, you hear about other people who also have stories about this doctor. He really helped a lot of people, and he was always generous and kind with all of his patients, it seemed. Newspapers started publishing more stories about him with personal accounts from countless people. You start to get the full picture of who this person was, and you start to understand just who Jose Gregorio Hernandez Cisneros really was. Howdy all, and welcome back to another episode of the Sanctified Podcast, the show where we explore the stories of various saints throughout history and learn about what they did and how we came to recognize them as saints today. Today, we're going to explore the life of Saint Jose Gregorio Hernandez Cisneros. He led a devoted life to helping others any way he could. Jose Gregorio Hernandez Cisneros was born on October 26, 1864, in a small village called Esnotu in Venezuela. He was the second of 7 children and was actually distantly related to the 15th century Cardinal Cisneros through his mom's side of the family. Growing up, his parents worked to keep family fed with a roof over their heads, like any good parents would. His mother, Josefa Antonio Cisneros, worked as a housekeeper in the region, and his father, Benigno Maria Hernandez, sold livestock and worked in a pharmacy. Jose was baptized in 1865 and received confirmation in 1867. So you can see that his family was fairly devoted, since he would have only been able to do this with the help of his parents. He was 3 years old by the time he was confirmed. Jose even said that his mother taught him the virtue of faith since before he could walk. By the time Jose turned 13, he already knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to become a lawyer. But his mom was like, no way, you're going to be a doctor. And that kind of decided it for Jose. He wasn't going to go against his mom's wishes, so he set out to become a doctor. And in 1878, he enrolled in the Colegio of Letras in Caracas, which is one of the most prestigious schools in Venezuela at the time. He graduated with a degree in philosophy in 1882, and from there, he enrolled in the Central University of Venezuela in Caracas to start studying to become a doctor. Throughout his educational career, his teachers always recognized that he had very exceptional academic performance, and he was just an all-around pleasant student. After completing 6 more years of education, Jose graduated from the Central University of Venezuela in 1888, and he was officially a doctor. He was awarded a grant from the government to continue his studies in Europe the very next year, so his education wasn't over. Jose went to Paris and he studied other fields of medicine that just weren't really as well taught or even not offered at the schools in Venezuela. A couple of years later, he returned to Venezuela and he finally became the lead doctor at a hospital. And for the next couple of decades, he dedicated his spare time to teaching others not only about medicine, but also religion, like his mother taught him. The two aren't mutually exclusive, despite what some people would argue, and Jose really helps to prove it. Jose had his own medical complications, though, and it started to prevent him from being able to do his work as well as he would have liked to. He still wanted to help people, but if he couldn't do it as a doctor, he needed to find another way. He started to feel drawn to priesthood, and he tried to enroll in some seminaries, but he was denied because of his failing health. They weren't really sure that he would actually be able to finish the schooling. In 1908, he traveled to Italy to the Fernata Charter House near Lucca to become a hermit of the Carthusian order. He arrived in July, and then he left the following April, almost 1 year later, because his health really didn't allow him to stay any longer. Finally, in 1913, he enrolled in the seminary at the Pontifical Latin American College in Rome. However, he had to return to Venezuela again before he could finish his studies because he was again too sick. Resolved to help people in faith, he decided pursuing priesthood wasn't the way that he was meant to follow. So, he became a Franciscan tertiary. He continued helping people as a doctor, but if they were too poor to buy medicine or pay for his services, he just said, don't worry about it, and he just gave them whatever they needed. He even wrote a few books while this was all going on. These books are The Elements of Bacteriology, about the angina pectoris of malaric origin, and The Elements of Philosophy. Quite the collection and pretty thorough books. He certainly kept busy, being a doctor, studying, writing, praying. When did he have time to relax? Like, he must have just been one of those people who needed to always be doing something, and that something pretty much revolved around helping other people in some way. In 1918, the Spanish flu epidemic broke out in Venezuela, and it really rattled the country. 25,000 people ended up dying to the flu in Venezuela alone, and a total of almost 5% of the global population died from it. Jose, being the man he was, had to help any way he could. He treated numerous patients in Caracas who were suffering from the flu. But in 1919, Hernandez met his unfortunate end. Not from the flu, but from being hit by a car, June 29th. One of about only 600 cars in the city at that time. So it was just a very unfortunate set of circumstances. His unfortunate death also brought forward witnesses to the miracles that he performed. People locally read about his death, and they started sharing their own stories, and it really quickly spread from there. It wasn't long before most of Latin America and Spain were talking about Jose and his miracles. In 1949, so about 30 years after his death, the Venezuelan Catholic Church opened an investigation to see if it was possible that he could be beatified and canonized. The investigation was on and off for decades to come. Though he was declared a venerable in 1985, he wasn't beatified until April of 2021, after a miracle was finally approved that had been attributed to him. And this miracle was that an 11-year-old girl who had suffered from a gunshot wound to the head on March 10th, 2017. And what happened was an armed robber attempted to rob her father, whom she was riding on an electric scooter with, and from just a few feet away, the robber shot the two. The girl was found by her mother shortly after the incident, and her mother got her to the closest hospital as fast as she could. But they had to take a motorboat because there just was no other faster option. So it certainly wasn't a smooth ride for the poor girl. And she didn't get to the hospital until 4 hours after the incident. And because of other unknown circumstances, a neurosurgeon couldn't examine her until 48 hours later. Other nurses and doctors tried to help as much as they could, but it was clear the injury was severe and they weren't sure they could really do anything about it. The child was transferred to a private clinic, and doctors informed the mother that even if her daughter did survive, she would have permanent disabilities and or possible disorders. Her mother prayed for Venerable Jose Hernandez Cisneros' intercession, and she asked her family members to do the same. On March 15th, just 5 days after the incident, and only a day or two after being transferred to the clinic, the girl improved drastically and very unexpectedly. 2 weeks later, on March 30th, she was discharged with no neurological challenges whatsoever. That's an insane recovery. She was shot in the head, and she couldn't be seen for a few days, really. And then less than a month later, she was out walking around. There's just no other word to describe that other than a miracle. Then, in February of this year, 2025, it was declared that Jose would be canonized. But not because of another miracle, at least according to the Dicastro de Causa dei Santi, which is the office in the Vatican that works on the causes for saints, but basically through equivalent canonization. On March 26th, 2024, the Archbishop of Caracas wrote to the Holy See about canonizing Blessed Jose Hernandez Cisneros, because really just how widespread his following had become. Letters from archbishops were sent in supporting this from Colombia, Argentina, Ecuador, Spain, the Netherlands, and the United States. More letters from various parishes all around the world were sent in too. The inspirational life that Jose had led just inspired so many people. He had helped so many people when he was alive, and he was still helping people now. He'd already been referred to as the Saint of Charity, Santos de la Caridad, and there were various other miracles that were reported to be because of Jose, but officially they weren't the reason for his push into canonization. Whether or not they're recognized as true, some of them were, some of them weren't. But the real reason that the Vatican decided to canonize him was just basically equivalent canonization. So, with that, Jose Gregorio Hernandez Cisneros was canonized October 19th, 2025. His feast day is October 26th, and he is recognized as the patron saint of medical students, doctors, medical patients, and diagnosticians, as well as for charity as previously mentioned. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, what do you think of Saint Jose Gregorio Hernandez Cisneros? What are your thoughts on his dedication to help people and use his faith in doing so? I hope you found his story interesting, and I look forward to learning about your thoughts on Saint Jose. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, you can subscribe, download the episode, like, comment, share with your friends, or send me a suggestion on a saint to check out by emailing me at thesanctifiedpodcast@proton.me. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Podbean, and more. Just search for The Sanctified Podcast on whatever service you're using, and you should have a few episodes uploaded. Take care, and have a wonderful day.